Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio and the KIDO Talk Radio app. Remember, the app is free. Google Play, Apple App Store, KIDO Talk Radio. We hope to earn some real estate on your phone. And we're not going to, send you 75 notifications on somebody stubbing their toe. That is our pledge to you. Thank you again for joining us. Our great friend, Cassie Smedley, joining us from the RNC. And, Brooke and some of the others are great, but we're glad to have you back, Cassie. Thank you for joining us again.
Always great to be with you. Great way to start the day.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's take a look at, the big news from the liberal media is we have another congressperson, this time from Texas, retiring. But this is part of the cycle, right? People come, people go, yet the libs, it seems, are so desperate to find something negative in this booming economy that they keep talking about all these Republicans retiring.
Yes, thank you for saying that. This is par for the course. We have retirements every cycle, and these guys have been in. Many of them took pledges that they would only be in Congress for 6 years or 10 years, and many of them are at that point, and they want to get back into life. That's fine. And my favorite, when they try and say this is a sign that Texas is going blue, in both 2016 and 2018, Republicans won every statewide race in Texas by a really good margin. And there's no sign that that's letting up. In fact, we're seeing the base continue to expand in sectors that you might not even think of, minority communities or people that have been lifelong Democrats that are now not only do we see them in polling trending our way, but we see them when they're showing up to our meetings and our trainings and certainly at the rallies. So we know this is part of every congressional cycle, political cycle, but we've also got the infrastructure on the ground to account for that.
Cassie, in the old days, we respected the press. It was great. But look, I thought they couldn't get any wackier or zanier during the Obama years, but this is just out of hand. What do you make of that? And what's it like inside the RNC? What's it like inside the White House to understand that you're not going to get fair coverage?
Right. In fact, we've had members of the press tell us, oh, your peers over at the DNC, they don't know how good they have it. I mean, people have told us that. And that because they just expect the good coverage on the Democrat side, and we really have to work for it. But fortunately, there's two factors here at play. But the main one is that we go local. That's why we love talking to you. But we've been doing our Open for Business tours in states across the country where we meet with local businesses and bring together groups of people to talk about how they've been positively impacted by Trump's economy. And those are carried on your local news channel, which is painting a far different picture every night than what you're seeing at the national level. And dare I say, it's because they're closer to the action. And so for us, all politics are local, but certainly that's become the case with news coverage as well, to go straight to the source and to go to the people closest to the news and everyday Americans. That's been a big part of what we've tried to do this cycle, both at the RNC and with the president's campaign. But you're right, it's not easy when you have CNN hosting a 7-hour infomercial, essentially, for the 2020 candidates on climate change. That I don't know really who's watching for all 7 of those hours, but it's those types of things that we're up against every day because you're never going to get equal coverage. Yes, they cover President Trump when he goes on TV, but it's because they're waiting for him to say something that they can then critique. Versus usually when he's talking, the American people are glad to hear from him and glad to be listening. But we appreciate local news and broadcasting.
Well, Cassie, we appreciate that, and thank you for the props there. But let's review what happened. So we have this hurricane raging, and just coincidentally, let's have a town hall meeting where we blame everything on the Republicans and climate change.
I know somebody yesterday said, couldn't Donald Trump just fix the hurricane? And I said, well, certainly he will be blamed for it because they do find a reason to blame him for everything. And to your point, now that they're saying, oh, this is now climate change, never mind that there is unfortunately precedent for natural disasters such as these over decades, hundreds, thousands of years. This isn't the first time we've seen a hurricane, certainly. But I think what's frustrating to most Americans is that, and I think to the larger point we're talking about here, that today's Democrat Party goes to the extreme on absolutely every issue. You and I can sit here and have a conversation about being conservationists and being good stewards of recycling programs. That's pretty normal for all of us. We all work to be as good neighbors and good community members of our communities. But to hear Democrats on every single issue go to the extreme. I mean, in last night's climate forum, you had Bernie Sanders talking about using taxpayer dollars to provide birth control or abortion measures, or I should say population control measures, to poor people in foreign countries. That was something I had heard about years ago that I thought was the most extreme idea possible. No way it could really be happening. Not only is that something that Democrats want now, that is in the mainstream of their conversations to the extreme on these issues. I think most Americans hear that and say, there's no place for me in today's Democrat Party. That's why, again, we see at rally RSVPs, on average, half of them are registered Democrats because they're coming over to say, not only is President Trump talked to me and delivered for my community, but I'm not buying anything that the Democrat Party is trying to sell today because it's so extreme and radical.
Cassie Smedley joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. It's weird, though, when you take a look at the debate structure, the Republicans, and you remember this, the last cycle, there were months where you had 17, 18 candidates. The DNC seems to want, here you're going to like this plan, where it wants to limit choice by winnowing the field down already artificially, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Reince Priebus, I always give him a lot of credit because I remember in 2015 and 16, there were a lot of calls from Washington consultants and the establishments, quote unquote, to narrow the field. And what did they mean? Get rid of Donald Trump. They didn't think he belonged in what they knew to be the Republican Party. And Reince Priebus said, we're going to let the voters decide. And we're going to go through this process, and we will have primaries that come and state conventions and all of that. And the voters will let us know who they want to be the nominee. And that's what happened. And it obviously was a good gamble because the voters were telling us that they wanted something different, that they wanted someone who was willing to go in and really shake things up because the status quo wasn't working for us. And that person has been Donald Trump. And we get to stand in a pretty high and mighty position because we allowed the process to play out and gave the voters that choice as is the way it should be versus the DNC. They already are having a trust issue with their party because they put their thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton in 2016. There was no way for Bernie Sanders to ever get the nomination because they were all working for Hillary. And then now here again with the winnowing down. I get it. It's a lot of money to put on these debates. You have people that you feel aren't polling, aren't gaining any traction. You don't think so they're keeping the others that you think are gaining traction from getting the attention they need. But that's not fair because that's not how a representative democracy should work. And I think they're going to continue to get blowback and continue to deal with mistrust issues from their voters. And again, that's why we're seeing many of those voters pop on over to the Republican side.
And Cassie, for people that don't understand just how the scales were tipped, we're talking about Donna Brazile now, surprisingly, with Fox News being disclosed and she admitting that she gave Hillary Clinton the talking point. So not only did you have Debbie Wasserman Schultz tilting the field towards Hillary Clinton, you had Donna Brazile giving her the talking points during the debates, what the questions would be asked, because she was working for CNN. Very different, as you pointed out, from the Republicans. But you go back to that poor Bernie and anybody else that was running didn't have a chance.
Absolutely. And Donna Brazile was working for CNN, and then after Debbie Wasserman Schultz was out, went in to be the chairman of the DNC. Hillary Clinton gave the DNC a loan. Hillary Clinton, they were using her data. And all of this was happening during the, quote, primary process. And Bernie Sanders supporters, while we can say Bernie's positions are as extreme as they can get, but his supporters are often of a similar mindset of Trump supporters of, we don't want these heir apparents to be able to govern our country. We want people who are going to listen to us. And even as crazy as Bernie Sanders sounds to most of us, there's a sector of Americans who say, but you know what? He's at least talking to us, and he doesn't go in and deal with the cronyism. So that was interesting that we actually saw Bernie Sanders supporters go vote for Donald Trump, or certainly not vote for Hillary Clinton, because a big thing they felt is they felt that the establishment and the cronies tried to cook the books, and they felt, rightfully so, unfair target of that cronyism. And so, again, the Democrat Party is in a difficult spot. The DNC is not raising money. They're having to take out big loans in order to put on these debates. So maybe for them, it's just merely a budget issue, but it's not a good look when you're talking to voters and you're trying to tell them why you're limiting their choices when they haven't really even had time to figure out who's on the ballot. I mean, you and I talk about this every day, but most Americans living your lives, taking your kids back to school, you maybe know the names of one or two Democrat candidates, certainly not all of them, and you're not focused on it this far out. So is that fair? And we on the Republican side would say no.
Sure. Final thought on this. Your thoughts on Joe Biden, and a lot of people believe that Elizabeth Warren could emerge from the field. Your thoughts on both of them? Very different types of Democrat.
Well, I would say historically you think of them very different, but Joe Biden has been all too happy to embrace the far left socialist policies that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie go out every day and spout. You know, it's the Green New Deal. You saw them at the Climate Change Forum last night. There was no distinguishable difference between any of the candidates, and that includes Joe Biden. They want to take more of your money to regulate every aspect of your life, and that was unapologetically on display last night. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Whoever is the eventual nominee, the playbook is really the same. Here's how they want to spend more of your money to take more control of your life. And to the candidate, we're going to go out there and make sure the American people know the truth about them.
Right. And like I said, it's interesting when you have Bernie Sanders, free this, free that. Cassie, we could go on and on. We so appreciate it. Great to have you back in the fold.
Love it. Thanks to be with you, or great to be with you, and have a great week.
All right. Cassie Smedley joining us. Coming up next, well, we're not even going to tease this. We've got a little Bernie for you, thanks to the folks here at the Broadcast Center. Do we have Bernie?
And universities tuition free. We should make public colleges and universities tuition free. To guarantee health care as a human right, not a privilege.
If we're going to bring about real change in this country, that means health care to all people.
In another piece of legislation that we're going to be offering, we will eliminate medical debt in this country.
Hey, I like that idea. How about we just eliminate credit card debt, student loan debt, medical debt, mortgage debt, debt relief, right? Silly Bernie, tricks are for kids. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You want to wonder, the symbols are very powerful, right? Symbols are something to rally behind. School is back in session, by the way. We're getting ready to go to our first school coming up. Still looking for schools to finish out the season of Promote Our Schools, Secure Our Future. Still looking for that. And if you would like your school to be recognized and host a live broadcast, just email me, Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com. That's Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com. And what was it? Yesterday, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, the last day you can bid on the Big Rock at Boise High School. If you're not familiar with the Big Rock at Boise High School, it's Boise Braves, picture of a Native American warrior, Indian warrior. And remember, this all started with the tribes, the native tribes, I believe, in Idaho, said to the folks throughout all their school systems, hey, we find your mascot's offensive, so you need to take him down. Boise High School, one of the highest rated academically in the country. Also home to some of the most politically correct folks that send their kids to that school. Great school. Boise High School, actually the birthplace of KIDO Talk Radio. It actually started there. But they have a very particular progressive point of view. I think that's fair. So we had a couple of these big meetings, and the school board rushing in, doing what the school board does, says we're going to change the name to Boise Brave because that mascot's offensive. And then you had people going, I'm so happy. Gosh, power to the people. Now, never mind, taxes in the city of Boise go up, school levies go up, and people are overtaxed. Now, where I live, Star, Idaho, I was just reading a report that there's no industry in Star, so the tax base is 93% residential, 7% business. They hope to one day to get it 70-30. So you take a look at Boise, that's where a lot of the businesses are. You would think the tax bases would be more evenly distributed. That's not the case. I digress. So we get rid of the Indian warrior mascots. Now you have a move with colleges and universities across the country. They're getting rid of offensive mascots, right? Mascots that have been in place for years. Mascots that represent the evilness of man. Like the Colonials. That's right. That's a college east of the Great River. George Washington University. The Colonial mascot must go. Why? Because it glorifies the act of systematic oppression. Boy, do we have our work cut out for us, right? Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. The Colonials offensive. Good morning, Dave. Max in Garden City. Good morning, brother. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, good morning. Oh, Lord of mercy. I guess two topics. One, I was listening to Simon Owen talking about
China.
Chinese. Yeah, I heard did I hear him say October 3rd is National Day?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's October 1st. The 1st of October is National Day.
Look, facts are overrated on this program, but please continue.
Let's get away from that. China, according to local media, and I've been listening to media in Chengdu, over in Liaoning, and local media says that China's going to act in Hong Kong by October 1st. They're going to, if the Hong Kongers don't come to agreement, Beijing's going to roll in, but not as we would expect. They're not going to invade, but they will take a firm control of Hong Kong. And I think that somebody needs to do it. I'm not saying that Beijing needs to, but it's pretty obvious Hong Kongers don't want it. They don't want order or peace right now. And it's sad to see that because I think the Hong Kongers deserve that freedom, don't you?
I would agree with you, but let's face it, it's going to be end of the road for them.
It is. They've managed to put it off for over 20 years, and Beijing has been very gentle. I mean, everybody, the media was saying, when they turn it over to China, they're going to invade. China has been very gentle. But now the Hong Kongers have taken off the gloves. They don't like the offers they're being given. They're saying it's all or nothing. And I'm afraid if you play the all or nothing game with Beijing, you're going to end up with nothing. Then the flip side now, I want to change subject, go way over to the right and talk about mascots, statues, icons. Don't you see our society slowly being dismantled by everything from Black Lives Matter to 6 crazy Indians in a trailer called the Tribal Nations, taking away our mascots? What's going on here? You wouldn't see this anywhere else, would you?
You wouldn't see it in China, that's for sure.
No, that's a fact. I remember in China when they had a big riot and they pulled down a statue of Chairman Mao. And the police were dropping tear gas from a helicopter. They were firing all sorts of pepper spray, and they were beating the crud out of people. They spent a fortune to rebuild the statue. In America, they say, well, Thomas Jefferson had a slave pulled on the statue. George Washington had a slave pulled on the statue. Okay, Abraham Lincoln was pulled on a statue. He did plenty of things wrong. Let's go ahead and pull down everything, and let's rewrite Watergate. Let's rewrite the Clintons and Whitewater. I'm afraid for the younger people, the millennials, because they don't really know their country. They don't know America. Can I plug my podcast? Probably not.
Max, thank you for the call. Maybe next time. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio is your home to get you to work safely and on time. Don't forget, we'll have another report coming up. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Coming up, why we love Bernie Sanders.
Ryan, thank you very much. And Linda, thank you very much. Because it's not easy getting up in front of a TV camera and talking about it. Ryan, did I hear you correctly say that you have to cut your pills in half yourself? Okay. We could keep that down a little bit. Okay, guys.
That's a little baby, by the way. Keep it down. We'll have more on Bernie Sanders. That's why I love him. If nothing else, he's very authentic. Joining us now, Jeff Manasso, and instead of diverting the topics all the time from Fox News Radio's Jeff Manasso, we are going to talk about football. The 100 years of the NFL, amazing.
Yeah, the 100th season of the NFL opens tonight. A big game here in Chicago, a matchup between these long, storied rivalries, the Packers and, of course, the current NFC North champs, the Bears. Kickoff tonight, 7:20 local time, 7:30 local time, and a big game. Kevin, it's the 199th matchup between the Bears and Packers. Chicagoans are feeling really confident about this game under QB Mitch Trubisky and last year's dominating defense that only lost one player, Adrian Amos, to the Packers, but they picked up former Packers starter HaHa Clinton-Dix as his replacement. So really there's a lot of consistency tonight into the game for the Chicago Bears as 3-point favorites. Packers, I mean, other than Aaron Rodgers, they're really unknowns, an entirely new coaching staff under Matt LaFleur, and to change up offensively and defensively, perhaps a whole new play approach and style. I have no clue on what the Packers are going to bring tonight. But if they can protect Aaron Rodgers, if he's protected, he can dominate. So we'll see. And what's cool about the NFC North is whether you're in Detroit at Ford Field or in here in Chicago or in Minnesota, it feels like a home game. These teams travel. The fans travel really well, and I can tell you, Grant Park last night was full of my brothers and sisters in green and gold.
And then we've got, of course, the rest of the season. What are the big storylines throughout the NFL? I mean, we've got Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems it's been more about money in the offseason than about teams and their chances of winning the Super Bowl, or has it?
Yeah, I mean, look, stories kind of write themselves throughout the season. I think anybody who's predicting what's going to happen is just kind of somebody who's looking to do a glass ball and try to make the best prediction based on stats and things like that. You can easily get into the weeds. I mean, there's talk right now of the Super Bowl and what teams are going to make it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, there's the threat from New England, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and what they've done incredibly, and possible matchup between Kansas City and the Rams for the Super Bowl. I think that one's a pretty good one that you could make. Other than that, I think that most fans are just truly hoping that we enter the season feeling like we feel like we're getting back into football and not so much getting back into politics and the garbage that we've been talking about over the last couple of years that really hurt the NFL with plummeting ticket sales and plummeting viewership ratings for the networks carrying the game. So I think the big thing is that football is back, and let's just keep it football and keep the other stuff out of it.
Jeff Manasso, thank you, brother.
You bet.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about a few things. The end of college mascots because they're offensive, like Colonials, like Pioneers. What will they think of next? Pete in Mountain Home, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Pete.
Good morning, Kevin. I had a couple thoughts here on the mascot issue for the Meridian Warriors. They can keep the name and just change the mascot to a Marine or a U.S. soldier.
True.
Those are warriors. And the other one, I just heard on the news that they have decided that the terrorist watch list is unconstitutional. Apparently, it's putting Muslims and others on the list that have no due process or chance to challenge it or anything, and their rights are being infringed. Does that sound like red flag laws?
It's funny. It's red flag laws everywhere, it seems.
Yeah,
right?
and those apparently are just fine with the left, but the terrorist watch list can't be allowed. Somebody should explain that to me. I don't quite understand the difference.
Agreed. What do you make of this rule where we're trying to get rid of cowboys and pioneers and colonials and really?
Well, this is something that they did in Russia and China, that they want to eliminate history. The history that they don't like, they want to eliminate so they can rewrite it. And they want everyone in America to think that, everything we did, and especially the Constitution, was evil. And so we got to get rid of all that, and we got to recreate society. And Sometimes I'm just glad that I'm as old as I am, and I'm not going to live to see if this country goes over to. Somehow, I don't think we'll go to left-wing socialism. Well, we won't unless they can manage to round up all the guns like they did in Venezuela. Because I think there's a number of people out there, the veterans and the military and the deplorables out in flyover country aren't going to put up with it.
Well, and that's our greatest hope. Pete, thank you for the call, sir.
Thank you.
Liberal Steve joins us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Liberal Steve.
Buenos dias, Idaho. Hey, Mr. Miller, good morning.
Good morning,
do you plan
sir.
on going back over to the Oregon coast? And where were you? Were you in Newport, Lincoln?
Lincoln City.
Hey, if you ever go back over again, I got a houseboat in the bay there on the Aquinnah River in Newport. You could sure stay there. Nice. Keep it tied up to the dock. You don't have to take it out. Cook on it. Do whatever you want.
I appreciate that, but we separate church and state, but thank you for the offer.
Oh, okay. I understand. Say, I think Joe Biden should probably drop out. I really like Mr. Biden and everything, but I was reading in the paper and the news that he's had an aneurysm that was a big one. He's got an aneurysm like I got. I got one over my kidney that could blow at any time. He survived that. He had an aneurysm in his brain where they took the top of his skull off and fixed that, and it affected his speech a little bit. And now at this town hall meeting, he had a hemorrhage explode in his right eye. And American insurance companies say 78 is it. That's where they clock the line for males in America. If you make it past 78, you're on a thin line. And United Kingdom's 80 and Canada's 82. But America's the worst at 78, one of the worst in the world. So I think at his age, is he 76, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's pushing it. I know Trump is 70, so he's a little ways off. But still, I guess you got to call Washington, D.C. if you want the weather to change in Idaho. They'll just send you out some fake weather. But hey, ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth? But yeah, he should drop out and let everybody else challenge it out, unless he plans on getting a vice president that step right in.
Well, thank you really for sticking on the topics. We so appreciate it.
Well, I was on the topic.
And we were talking about pioneers with cowboys and Indians and all sorts of things.
Oh, God. We're lucky the Indians don't just keep suing us and suing us and suing us like the Me Too and everybody else does. I mean, they were here first, and they didn't have 30-30 rifles and Gatling guns and everything else until they stole them, or somebody smart like me sold them to them. So, yeah, I think they should sue the ass out of America.
Well,
we stole it, but we still own it.
God bless you.
What?
Sue the blank out of America. What kind of statement is that? That's about one of the most ridiculous things that you've ever said.
Don't you want to stand up for the right of people?
No, my team is America.
How would you like it if we came into Philly, Idaho came into Philly and that whole area and kicked everybody out?
In Pittsburgh, I would welcome it because I was fighting the libs every day. I would be Benedict Arnold. I'd be right there with everybody. Liberal Steve, thank you for the call. Let's go to Al in Ontario with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Hi. I think there's a continuity between these issues that we see, with the radical egalitarians wanting to destroy our culture, and also really in China, okay, where they want to destroy freedom over there. It really comes down to, I believe, a fight between the individualist way of living life and the collectivist way of living life. And the collectivists want to destroy any vestige of freedom here, so they have to vilify our culture, the West. They have to lie about our history. They have to lie we're the greatest the West is the greatest cultural development that's ever happened in human history. We've created everything basically that is good, and some things that were a little bit bad, but we've corrected those too. And but we see over there in China the Communist Party wanting to impose their totalitarianism on these poor folks in Hong Kong, and they're going to use extremely violent methods to do that. Here in the United States, we're in the process of basically going towards totalitarianism also. And we're doing that by, like I say, vilifying all of the icons of the past. These are iconoclasts. I mean, this goes way back. These folks think that, history means nothing. They don't understand history. They're not great historians. They don't understand anything about philosophy, psychology, economics, all of the liberal arts, the real liberal arts. And so, they're basically pushing towards the collectivist. And, the problem with collectivism is you can't attribute responsibility to the collective. How, you can attribute responsibility to, the individual. You have to behave in a particular way. How do you attribute responsibility to the collective? You don't. So consequently, they're going to try and control the collective. And what that means is taking away freedom. And free men are not equal, and equal men are not free. And that's really, I think, the struggle that we see today between collectivism and individualism. But you can see parallels in all of these situations we're seeing around the world.
Right, and incrementally, it's happening to us, unfortunately. Fortunately, that's why we're here. Holly and Caldwell, you're next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Don't forget, Friday morning will be an Independence indoor shooting in beautiful Meridian, Idaho, learning about gun safety, learning about how to protect yourself, and the enhanced concealed carry course that they offer. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about a few issues, notably the China trade wars, what's going to happen to Hong Kong, and my personal favorite, which is nonpartisan, and this issue involving colleges and universities around the country, pretty much everywhere, getting rid of offensive mascots, because let's face it, we don't want any mascot to be offensive to influence the impressionable young minds. Well, when you think of an offensive mascot, what are you thinking about? Boise High just changed their names from Boise Braves to Boise Brave, whatever that means. What's a Brave? I don't know what a Brave is. I know what a Braves is. I don't know what a Brave is. Hey, we're the Brave. Okay. So we have schools across the country. Here, let me know if you find this offensive. Colonials, Pioneer, Prospector Pete, the 49er. Ooh. So long, Long Beach. Cowboys. Remember we told you a little bit about this at the University of Wyoming, where we had people wanting them to cease the marketing campaign with the slogan, "The world needs more cowboys." Because one professor at the University of Wyoming put it, the word cowboy invokes a white, macho male, able-bodied, heterosexual, U.S.-born person. I think we need a little bit more of those now more than ever. Of course, any possible Native American mascot you haven't thought of yet, and the list goes on and on. How crazy is this? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. My personal favorite is the University of Wyoming Cowboys, though. The world needs more Cowboys. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Let's get to your phone calls, and we go to Holly in Caldwell. Holly, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. I realize you talked a little bit yesterday about the issues going on with the Bundy family and the erroneous information put on their records. When all of their charges were dropped, they were found not guilty in all cases. I wanted to give a little regrets a little bit, and the more shocking one in that case is his brother Dave Bundy was arrested for only taking photographs of the BLM killing and burying his family's cattle. He was arrested and beaten with no charges and released. Then 2 years later, when they decided to round up lots of people and throw them in jail for 2 years without bail and without a trial and lots of persecution trying to take a plea deal, they were put on felony watch list and on probation, and they had not even gone to trial yet. That is not how the justice system in our country should work, and that is not how law enforcement should have authority in this country. So Dave went to try to buy guns and, of course, found out that he was on this list, and so he sent his wife down, and then she couldn't buy one, so they sent him to an office, and at the office they told him that he was a felon and that she was a straw man. And so if red flag laws are not being used without being passed as law in this country, I don't think that people could say that that's the truth. I also am concerned about any type of promotion of putting people away because they're mentally ill, because if that's the case, they'd have to do half the lawmakers in all of Hollywood. And I think the definitions these days are pretty backwards. So.
Well, and the idea that a cowboy is bad.
Totally. I mean, really. But, you know, you see the attack on cows and with the climate change religion and all of the other erroneous information that's being fed through the media and into the mainstream area. And there, unfortunately, a lot of our younger people are believing that. And, you know, Raul Labrador was correct the other day when he said we need to wake up. We need to wake up and understand the reality of where we are and how we need to become involved. And I won't mention some of the places that for people that haven't bought ads, but there are ways to become informed, and people can contact me if they'd like to know what they can do to. And we have to start at the local and the state level. That's where we begin. We can't fix this thing at the national level. Who our president is, I talked about that book, The President Makers, on freedomfirstsociety.org, and almost everything in that book has been going on for lots of generations. And the issue to curtail gun rights, to limit logging, grazing, and mining, and basically undermine the Constitution, executive orders to limit the powers of Congress. We can't take back our country if we don't become informed and do that at the local and the state level and vote in people who will support limited government.
Well, and not only that, but not be afraid to speak up and not be afraid to open carry and not be afraid to say, well, just because you say something crazy, wacky, zany lib doesn't mean it's the truth. And by the way, crazy, wacky, zany lib, you're not the boss of us.
You're totally right, Kevin. If we want to be the land of the free, home of the brave, we better start being brave and just being logical. There's a lot of good Americans left. I know there's a lot of good people out there, but if they sit there and become fearful and do nothing, and what I mean by do nothing is don't go vote and don't become informed and run off to the football game and pretend like everything's fine, it's not going to fix the problem in our nation.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Holly. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. How about this one? California officials have made some interesting moves of late. Remember, we told you about the story that it's, what is it, a person hole cover now? It's not a manhole cover. Remember the gender-neutral language involving the term manhole? It's offensive. So now the same folks that brought us that, they've designated the National Rifle Association as a domestic terrorist organization. That's right, the loony left in San Francisco. Hello, Bay Area. The Board of Supervisors passed the resolution this week saying the U.S. is plagued by an epidemic of gun violence and accuses the NRA of using its considerable wealth and organization to promote gun ownership and incite gun owners to act violently. Really? Well, of course, they're promoting gun ownership. They're the National Rifle Association. More on the resolution from the San Francisco Board of Supervisors saying they should take reasonable steps to limit those entities who do business with the city and county of San Francisco. So in other words, anybody wanting to do business with the NRA is persona non grata in the Bay Area because they've said they've actually passed a resolution that they believe that the NRA is a domestic terrorist organization. What will they think of next? And think about this, ex-California people. Is the state of California and their wacky, zany officials losing credibility when we're talking about real issues that are impacting that state? We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, good morning.